Life often confronts us with moments we never truly prepare for. One day, someone is an inseparable part of your world. The next, they are simply gone. Not always in a dramatic way. Sometimes it's subtly growing silence, a fading connection, a realization that the emotional investment was never mutual. And suddenly, you're left wondering how something once so meaningful could feel so empty. We form bonds, we attach our hopes and emotions to people we trust, and in doing so, we make ourselves vulnerable to the pain of separation. So what do you do when that bond breaks? When someone who meant everything to you now barely returns your calls or never saw you in the same light, you may ask yourself in quiet desperation, how do I stop caring without becoming heartless? Is it even possible to let go emotionally without losing part of who I am? These are not easy questions, but they are profoundly human. And this is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, particularly the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, offers us something rare and deeply needed, a path forward not through avoidance, but through mastery. The Stoics were not emotionless beings. On the contrary, they were masters at recognizing emotions, understanding them, and ultimately, refusing to let those emotions control their every move. Emotional detachment, from a Stoic perspective, isn't about shutting off your heart. It's not about pretending you don't feel. It's about learning how to hold your emotions without letting them pull you under. It's about stepping back, seeing clearly, and choosing clarity and peace over chaos and confusion. In this journey together, we'll explore 5 enduring Stoic rules to help you emotionally detach from someone who no longer aligns with your inner peace. These aren't abstract ideas or empty motivational lines. They're practical, grounded tools rooted in ancient wisdom, and if you apply them, they will begin to reshape how you experience loss, connection, and above all yourself. Let's begin by understanding the first rule, accepting the impermanence of all things, including the people we hold dear. Rule 1. Understand the impermanence of life. As we begin this journey toward emotional detachment, the first step may feel the hardest, and yet it is the most liberating. Marcus Aurelius reminds us with piercing clarity, everything we hear is merely an opinion, not a fact. And everything we see is just a perspective, not the truth. When it comes to human relationships, especially those charged with emotional depth, we often mistake our perspective for reality. We create stories about people's stories of forever, of shared meaning, of unshakable bonds. But the truth the Stoics teach us is this: all things are temporary. Every bond is subject to change. Every connection is fleeting. One day you may feel inseparable from someone. The next, there is silence. Maybe they've drifted. Maybe you have. Sometimes it's a sudden goodbye. Other times, it's a quiet fade that leaves no closure. It might feel bleak to think this way, but to the Stoics, this is where detachment begins, not in denial, but in acceptance. Accepting that nothing lasts forever allows us to be fully awake in the present. Because when you stop pretending that someone or something will always be there, you begin to cherish what's in front of you, not cling to what's already slipping away. Have you ever tried to hold sand in your hand at the beach? The harder you grip it, the faster it slips between your fingers. The same applies to relationships. The more tightly we try to hold on to someone, the faster we lose them, not always physically, but emotionally. There's a natural rhythm to life. People grow, circumstances shift, and love, no matter how deep, can evolve into something else or quietly dissolve altogether. I remember a friendship that lasted over a decade. We shared everything: hopes, doubts, late-night thoughts. I believed we'd always be close. But time, distance, and change slowly chipped away at that bond. I resisted it. I told myself we could get it back. But deep down, I was holding on to a version of us that no longer existed. The emotional weight became a Burdena chain, binding me to someone who had already moved on. It wasn't until I stopped resisting and embraced the truth that the friendship had served its season that I finally felt free. Free not from them, but from the illusion of permanence. Marcus Aurelius would have said the same. Expect things to end, and you will suffer less when they do. Detachment is not apathy, is clarity. It is choosing to stand in the flow of life rather than fighting the current. Once we accept impermanence, we begin to see people for what they truly are, fellow travelers, not permanent fixtures. And in that realization, we soften our grip, reclaim our peace, and open ourselves to growth. From this foundation of acceptance, we move to the next rule that teaches us how to transform emotion into strength through the power of rational thought. Rule 2. Master your emotions through rational thought. Building on the awareness of life's impermanence, the next step toward emotional detachment is learning to reclaim command over your inner world. Reactions often come quickly when emotions are involved, especially when we're deeply attached to someone. But here's a difficult truth to accept: emotions, while intense, are not objective reality. They are not facts. They are responses created by our interpretations, beliefs, and thoughts. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, understood this deeply. They didn't believe we were at the mercy of our emotions. They taught the opposite. Our emotions are at the mercy of our thoughts. Marcus put it simply but profoundly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That idea that your mind, and only your mind, dictates how you feel is at the very heart of emotional mastery. Detachment doesn't begin by shutting off how you feel. It begins with recognizing that your emotions are not something external that happens to you. They are internal responses you generate. And once you recognize that, you can begin to change the way you think, and through that, change the way you feel. Take heartbreak, for example. A breakup can feel like a tidal wave. You relive conversations, scan text messages for hidden meanings, ask yourself again and again, how could they move on so quickly? Or, what did I do wrong? But the Stoic approach urges us to pause and shift our focus. Instead of handing control over to your emotions, ask yourself, what are the facts? Strip away the speculation. Ask, how can I think about this in a way that helps me heal instead of hurt? Because what you think creates what you feel. Think about it. When you're hurt, ignored, or let down, what happens first? Do the emotions rise before your mind responds, or is it your interpretation of the event that triggers the emotion? The Stoics say it's the latter. You interpret, then you feel. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means your emotional state reflects the tint of your internal dialogue. Imagine you send a heartfelt message to someone you care about. It could be a friend, a partner, a sibling. Hours go by, no reply. Your mind races. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Do they not value me? With each passing minute, a quiet concern becomes full-blown anxiety. But stop for a moment and ask, what is the truth? The only fact is that they haven't replied. Everything else, the doubt, the story, the emotionese, something your mind created. It's not their silence that hurt you. It's your belief about what that silence meant. The Stoic response is to intervene at that very point. Step back. Question your first thought. Ask, is this reaction helpful? Is it based in truth? That's what Marcus would advise. Don't accept your thoughts as truth just because they arrived quickly. Reflect before you react. I remember going through this myself. I was in the middle of a deep conversation with someone I trusted. Suddenly, they stopped replying. At first, I told myself they were just busy. But over time, my thoughts changed. Are they ignoring me? Did I say too much? By the end of the night, I had convinced myself that the relationship was over. I felt waves of worry, guilt, and confusion. But none of it was real. The next day, when I calmly reached out, they replied as if nothing had happened. They had simply gotten distracted by life. And in that moment, I remembered the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Focus on what's within your control. I couldn't control their silence, their timing, or their thoughts, but I could control mine. That single mental pivot allowed me to let go of the anxiety I had created and return to a place of peace. So when emotion threatens to overwhelm you, remember this: your thoughts are the first gate. Challenge them, examine them, because when you shift the way you think, you reclaim your emotional power. This is the true practice of detachment, not avoidance, but conscious redirection of your inner lens. From mastering your thoughts, we'll now move deeper into how to reframe your perceptions and learn the art of self-questioning, the core of Rule 3. Rule 3. Practice negative visualization. Once we've learned to regulate our emotions through rational thought, the next step toward inner freedom is preparing the mind for inevitable loss. This brings us to Rule 3. Practice negative visualization. At first glance, the very idea might seem strange, even unsettling. Why would you voluntarily imagine losing something or someone you deeply care about? Doesn't that invite unnecessary sadness or stress? But the Stoics saw it differently. To them, this was not a way to harden your heart, but a way to prepare your mind, a way to face life's impermanence with open eyes and steady hands. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often returned to this technique. He believed that visualizing potential losses wasn't a sign of pessimism. It was a commitment to clarity. It was a decision to no longer be caught off guard by life's natural cycles. When you practice negative visualization, you're not giving up hope. You're choosing realism over illusion. You're training your emotional core to withstand the storms of life with grace. He once wrote, "Do not disturb yourself by imagining the whole of your life's troubles at once. Rather, as each arises, meet it with calmness and self-control." In other words, don't let fear consume you. Face it. Train for it. Prepare your heart not to avoid pain but to endure it with dignity when it arrives. That's the heart of negative visualization, facing discomfort in your mind so it doesn't destroy you in reality. Picture someone close to you, a partner, a best friend, a parent. Now imagine your days without them. No shared conversations, no casual laughter, no simple presence. At first, that exercise may feel cruel. It might make your chest tighten or your throat close up. But that discomfort serves a purpose. The Stoics believed that by experiencing that sorrow mentally, by welcoming that pain in advance, you reduce its power to overwhelm you when life actually delivers the blow. I remember vividly when my best friend considered moving overseas. We had shared everything for years: weekends, secrets, long talks under the stars. The idea of losing that daily closeness filled me with dread. But instead of avoiding that fear, I leaned into it. I practiced what the Stoics preached. Every morning, I imagined life without them. I pictured going to coffee shops alone, starting new routines, meeting other people, and finding small joys in unexpected places. By the time they moved, I didn't break. Yes, it hurt, but I wasn't consumed. I had rehearsed the pain, and because of that, I could meet it with strength, not surprise. Negative visualization doesn't encourage detachment from love or connection. It deepens your appreciation for the present by reminding you that nothing lasts forever. Everything you cherish is fleeting. Every bond, every moment, is temporary. This isn't meant to make you fearful, it's meant to set you free. When you stop expecting permanence, you stop feeling entitled to it. And when you stop feeling entitled to what you love, you begin to appreciate it more fully while it's here. Think of relationships. Most people walk into love assuming it will last forever. We're told not to plan for the end, not to even think about it. But the Stoics would argue otherwise. They would say, hold what you love gently, not tightly. Because when your grip loosens, fear disappears. You're no longer obsessed with control. You're simply present, moment by moment, grateful for what you have while you have it. I once had a relationship that left me in constant anxiety. I feared the ending so much that I couldn't enjoy the present. I tried to micromanage every detail, every conversation, every emotion. But when I started applying negative visualization, everything shifted. I imagined the pain of losing that person. I let myself feel it, and then something beautiful happened. I stopped needing to control the outcome. I stopped clinging. I started living in the now. And when the relationship eventually ended, I didn't shatter. I had already made peace with the possibility. I had trained my mind not to fear loss, but to face it. This rule is not about emotional detachment. It's about emotional preparation. You don't love less when you practice negative visualization. You love with more presence, more intention, more gratitude. Because you've accepted that one day, everything changes. And in that acceptance, you find a deeper, quieter peace. From here, we'll turn toward another essential aspect of Stoic detachment learning, how to reframe and redirect the meaning we assign to suffering, which is the foundation of Rule 4. Rule 4. Focus on what you can control. After learning to prepare the mind through negative visualization, we arrive at one of the most empowering principles in Stoic philosophy, the fourth rule: focus on what you can control. This simple truth, repeated throughout the writings of Marcus Aurelius, is at the heart of emotional resilience. It's the anchor that keeps you grounded when the winds of relationships shift and the tides of emotion threaten to pull you under. Because here's the reality: so much of our emotional pain stems from trying to control things that are simply outside our power. Think about it. How often have you found yourself caught in a web of anxiety over someone else's feelings, reactions, or behavior? Whether in romance, friendship, or family, we invest deeply in how others respond to us. We want them to care as much as we do. We want them to show up, stay consistent, reciprocate our love. But the Stoics remind us, those are not things we can control. What we can control is our own mind, our own actions, our own response. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single realization, once internalized, changes everything. Emotional detachment, then, is not cold indifference. It is the radical acceptance that you are only responsible for your half of the equation. The rest is not yours to carry. I remember a time when I was in a relationship where I felt like I was constantly fighting to keep it alive. I planned the dates, I sent the kind messages, I was always available. But no matter how much I gave, I always felt one step behind. Their distance became my anxiety, their silence, my obsession, until one day, I realized I was trying to control how they felt about me. And that wasn't love. That was fear. That was control. So I stopped. I let go. And what I felt was not emptiness, but peace. Peace comes from no longer tying your worth to how others treat you. Peace comes when you reclaim your power. When you stop waiting for someone to validate you and start finding wholeness within yourself. This is emotional autonomy, and it's one of the greatest gifts Stoicism offers. Imagine a friendship where you constantly feel like you're chasing their attention. One week they're warm, the next they're cold. You begin to wonder, what did I do wrong? Why are they pulling away? But pause. Their behavior is not within your power. What is? How you respond. You can keep chasing or you can step back. You can ruminate or you can redirect. The choice is always yours. I've had to make this choice myself. There were times when the way someone treated me completely dictated my emotional state. If they were loving, I felt safe. If they were distant, I felt unworthy. But that's not a sustainable way to live. It's exhausting. It's unstable. So I turned to Stoicism, and slowly, I stopped handing people the keys to my emotional world. I stopped letting their moods steer my worth. I didn't care less. I just stopped being ruled by what I couldn't control. And that's the essence of this rule. Detachment isn't about feeling nothing. It's about not needing the world to cooperate in order for you to feel at peace. It's accepting that people are unpredictable, that situations are fluid, and that you can't control outcomes, only your effort and your mindset. The rest is not your burden. Think about the aftermath of a breakup. Your mind races with what ifs. What if I had said something different? What if I had tried harder? What if I can still fix it? But those thoughts are rooted in fantasy, not reality. The Stoic response is this: accept what has happened. Don't fight the truth. Don't wrestle with the past. Accept it fully and ask, how do I move forward with grace? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means even the worst situations, loss, betrayal, disappointment, can become paths to growth if you stop resisting them. When you accept that you cannot change what has happened, and you stop trying to control others, you begin to reclaim energy and clarity. I went through a deeply painful breakup that shook my sense of self. For weeks, I was stuck in a cycle of analysis and regret. But the more I fought against what had happened, the more I suffered. And then, slowly, I let go. I accepted that I couldn't fix it. I couldn't make them come back. But I could heal. I could grow. I could move forward. And in that moment, I found power not in changing them, but in choosing peace. Let go of the illusion of control. That is the path to freedom. And as we move forward, the next rule will guide us deeper into reclaiming that power by learning how to reframe our inner world and reinterpret emotional experiences with clarity and calm. Rule 5. Reflect on the bigger picture. In the heat of emotional turmoil, when your heart is tangled in the weight of a broken bond or a lingering attachment, it's easy to lose sight of the greater whole. Your pain feels infinite. Your world feels small. And the person or situation you're hurting over becomes the sole focus of your existence. But this is precisely when the Stoics urge us to zoom out. Marcus Aurelius, ever the calm voice in chaos, reminded us that our troubles, fears, and cravings are brief sparks in the vast fire of time. By stepping back and reflecting on the grander scheme of things, emotional detachment begins not through apathy, but through awareness. When we see our current distress as a single frame in the long film reel of our life, we begin to loosen the grip of suffering. Ask yourself gently, will this pain still matter 5 years from now? Will this person still occupy my thoughts in a decade? Have I not survived storms like this before and come out wiser on the other side? These questions are not designed to erase your feelings. They're meant to reshape the lens through which you view them. In my own journey, I remember a breakup that shattered my world. Every day felt heavy, every silence screamed. But over time, with space and reflection, I began to see the relationship not as the story of my life, but a chapter in it. A chapter that shaped me, but did not define me. This is what the Stoics meant by seeing the bigger picture. It's about remembering that we are not our emotions, nor are we the people who come and go from our lives. Life is ever evolving, and as powerful as a single moment can feel, it is never the whole. Imagine a mosaic made of thousands of tiny tiles, joys, heartbreaks, lessons, dreams. This person you're struggling to let go of is one tile among many. And when you stand too close, that single tile can dominate your vision. But when you take a few steps back, the full beauty of the design begins to emerge. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This truth urges us to understand that emotional attachment becomes suffering not because we care, but because we try to preserve what is already shifting. By embracing impermanence and remembering that nothing is eternal, not pain, not joy, not even relationships, we begin to cultivate a sense of calm in the midst of chaos. Detachment, in its highest form, is not indifference, it's wisdom. It's knowing when to hold on with care and when to release with grace. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting those feelings dominate your sense of identity. It means recognizing that you are a whole person, capable of loving deeply and also of letting go peacefully. When you reflect on the bigger picture, you begin to see how every loss has led to new understanding, how every ending made room for something new. This doesn't erase the pain, but it helps you carry it with perspective rather than being crushed beneath its weight. So if you find yourself caught in the grip of attachment, take a step back, breathe. Remember that you have lived 1,000 moments before this one, and you will live 1,000 more. The story is not over. This pain is not the whole book, it's a paragraph. And when you turn the page, you might find peace waiting on the next line. Emotional detachment is self-liberation. As you stand at the edge of emotional overwhelm, remember this: the Stoic path is not a bandage for temporary relief. It is a disciplinia way of seeing, a way of living. True emotional freedom begins not by hardening your heart, but by softening your grip. Control over how you respond to life's inevitable changes is not just a matter of mental effort, but a reflection of deep inner transformation. Marcus Aurelius never promised that pain would vanish, but he showed us that suffering is optional when you choose how to meet it. By embracing impermanence, you stop fighting the natural current of life. By mastering your emotions through rational thought, you remove the blindfold of reactivity. And by reflecting on the bigger picture, you gain perspective that dissolves the illusion of permanence. In doing so, emotional detachment becomes more than a tool, it becomes a quiet act of liberation. You are no longer bound to others by fear of loss. You are no longer held hostage by the need for things to remain the same. Instead, you walk forward with clarity, grace, and self-respect. So the next time you catch yourself clinging too tightly to a person, to a moment, to an outcome, pause. Ask yourself with courage, do I govern my emotions, or do they govern me? Am I anchoring myself in peace or in dependency? Because the truth is, emotional freedom does not come to those who control others. It comes to those who control themselves. And that freedom, the ability to let go with dignity, is the most powerful kind of strength you can ever cultivate. Let go, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand what's meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it.